Hello and welcome to 3 Minute Gaming, I'm Nathan. And in this video, we got reviews of all the games in the Doom franchise. Except for the Doom RPG games on cell phone. I'm sorry, I could not find a way to get them running. But other than that, this is back-to-back every single Doom game reviewed in chronological order. So grab your super shotgun and let's get rippin' and tearin', as here are reviews of all 6 games in the Doom franchise. Hello friends, welcome to another 3 Minute Game Pass. I'm Nathan, and today I'm going to tell you whether this Game Pass game is worth your time and bandwidth. The games we're going to talk about today are Doom 1 and 2 Classic. These are 2 games that kickstarted a genre, but are they worth playing in current year? Let's find out. These are a cross-platform Xbox and PC release featuring Play Anywhere, which means cross-save, cross-play, and everything else. They're not upgraded for anything, but they don't need to be. These games are very old. And the games are about 4 hours long for Doom and about 7 hours long for Doom 2. So what exactly is Doom and Doom 2? It's kind of stupid to review the Doom games, considering they're arguably 2 of the most important games ever made, but we're gonna try. So both games are FPS games with a wide variety of both weapons and enemies. They feature maze-like levels where you find key cards to access new areas, and these levels are full of tons of secrets and more. The kind of secret sauce for the Doom games is the fact that all the enemies are distinctly different, so it requires you to mix up strategies to combat them. Because of this, you can toss a bunch of enemies in different combat arenas and fights will stay engaging. Doom 1 is episodic based on the old Freer model, with 4 episodes that can be played separately from each other. Doom 2, on the other hand, has no episodes and is a singular experience. And while both games are fairly similar on the surface, Doom 2 spices things up significantly with one new weapon, all hail the double shotgun, as well as a ton of new enemies that added much needed variety. Basically, you're going to be blasting your way through hell. You don't have to aim up and down because these games are technically 2D, through a bunch of missions, and have a fantastic time doing it. So what do I like about Doom and Doom 2, besides them being 2 of the greatest games ever made? Well, they are fast, frantic shooters, and they hold up incredibly well. They are still very fun and play very well on a controller. The graphics and art design, while a bit dated, are still incredibly atmospheric, as is the incredibly iconic soundtrack across both games. And lastly, this port is actually pretty solid. If you're on PC, there's probably better ones you can find, but this one has some great additions, including fast weapon swapping, the ability to quick save, quick load from your controller from a menu, and the ability to add mods that they personally customized and allowed you to download, including Sigil, the one released by John Romero just a few years ago. So that's really cool. In terms of the bad, in these games, the map quality kind of ranges based on who made it. Some are very maze-like and can lead to frustration, and I just personally don't like the American McGee maps, but that's just me, so expect some of the maps to be a bit duds. Across both games, bosses are kind of underwhelming. Doom 1 has the Cyber Demon as well as the Spider Mastermind, both of which aren't particularly exciting. Doom 2 has the Icon of Sin, which is the shoot rockets into the dude's head boss, which kind of sucks too. Bosses overall just aren't great. And lastly, both Doom and Doom 2 tip a bit in quality after the first episode or batch of levels. They both have kind of a bit of a rough midsection. Doom 2's, I think, is more notable. I feel like its midsection is a bit of a slog. Once you get past it, the game picks up, but the city levels really just slow the game down. So as you know, I rate games on a 3-point scale. Must play, maybe consider don't bother. Doom is still a must play all these years later. It's fantastic. I mean, it's Doom, the biggest, baddest motherfucker of first-person shooters. It has more ports than Skyrim, and it's still an absolute blast to play. Doom 2 is technically the better of the pair, but it doesn't take away from how completely solid Doom 1 is. If you've never experienced these, go grab your Jolt Cola, pop in some 9 Inch Nails, and get ready for a hell of a good time. That's all we have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and go out there and enjoy the hell out of Doom on Doom 2. Hello friends, welcome to another episode of 3 Minute Game Pass. I'm Nathan, and today I'm going to tell you whether this Game Pass game is worth your time and bandwidth. Today's game is Doom 64, a semi-forgotten cult classic. Doom 64 finally gets the exposure it deserves by being released on PC and modern systems. Was it worth digging up this old shooter? Let's find out. Doom 64 is a cross-release Xbox PC featuring Play Anywhere, which means everything crosses over, which is awesome. It's not upgraded, but it does run at 60 FPS. It is an old game, so it looks great in that regard. And lastly, this game is about 7 to 8 hours long if you're not hunting for every single secret. So what exactly is Doom 64? Well, despite what everybody probably thought when it was released on the N64 back in the day, this is not just Doom ported to the N64. It is a completely new game made by Midway with id's help. This is a completely new game and it is completely in 3D, but they kept the classic Doom gameplay from the first two games, as most of the weapons and enemies, though they did cut a few enemies out. The game has a more somber tone than Doom 1 and 2, as evidenced by its soundtrack, as well as some really striking visuals and lighting, particularly for the N64 era. Overall, this is Midway's attempt to make a classic Doom game, and they didn't stray too far from the template it had used for their first two Doom games. So, if you've seen my Doom 1 and 2 review, it kind of covers the same thing. Expect maze-like levels, lots of enemies, keycards to open doors, and that sort of thing. So what I like about this game, Doom 64 looks really good, with some incredible lighting and some inspired visual designs. They've reimagined all the Doom enemies to be scarier and more monstrous, and I really love the new aesthetic. It's also higher res enemies, even though they're still technically 2D sprites. The game also feels fantastic to play. It feels just as good as Doom 1 and 2, if not better. The weapons are punchy, the action is fast, and the game controls really great, especially when you're not having to use the N64 controller to control it. And lastly, I really enjoyed the new soundtrack. It was written by a guy who also did the remade soundtrack for the Doom port on the PlayStation 1, and it's much more atmospheric and moody, rather than the metal riffs from the first game, which really fit this game's different aesthetic. In terms of things I don't like, this first one's going to be my big one. I feel like the maps overall are just much more poorly designed than Doom 1 and Doom 2, and the main issue is that it doesn't really telegraph what your actions cause in terms of a reaction in the world. What I mean by this is you will flip a switch and something 3/4 of the way across the map will change, and the game doesn't really indicate what that change is. I felt like in the first two Doom games, it had some clear pathing on what you do and what the response is. Now, it's not always perfect, but Doom 64 falls into this trap fairly often, which leads to a lot of running around being lost. The other issue I have is that this game doesn't have a lot of the modern features that the previous Doom ports had, and I don't really know why. The quick save and quick load are not default set up. You have to go and assign them to keys, which is odd. There's no quick level swapping. There's no quick item swapping. I don't know why this wasn't included. And lastly, this game's traps are just bull. Like, they will throw you into a pit with no escape, or throw you into an area where you can't get out of. Traps were common in the Doom games, but they'd always give you a way out of it. This one will put you in an area that'll force you to load a save. It feels like trolling. So as you know, I rate games on a 3-point scale. Must play, maybe consider, don't bother. This one's a maybe consider. To me, Doom 64 almost nails it in being a game that's just as good as Doom 1 and 2, but its poor map design really brings it down a peg. Despite that, I still think that the shooting and weapons feel amazing, and the game looks great. So if you have the patience or a guide, there is still a ton of fun to be gleaned from this game. If you love the classic Doom games, you'll enjoy this one and should for sure check it out. If you're not really into boomer shooters, this one isn't required reading. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day and go out there and enjoy Doom 64. Hello and welcome to another episode of 3 Minute Game Pass. I'm Nathan, and today I'm going to tell you whether this Game Pass game is worth your time and bandwidth. Today's game is Doom 3, the much criticized sequel to the classic duology of demon destruction games. How does this slower, more horror-themed interpretation of Doom pan out? Well, let's find out. Doom 3 is an Xbox and PC cross-release, again with Play Anywhere like the rest of the series. There's no sort of upgrades with regards to which console you play it on, but it will always run at 60 FPS, which is nice, and the game is about 10 hours long. So what exactly is Doom 3? Well, it's an FPS game with an emphasis on exploration, lighting, and horror. You may note I didn't say fast-paced, blisteringly action shooting in there like I did with the other Doom games, because that's right, this game has reimagined what the Doom franchise might be. It is a reboot of the story from the previous games, with reimagining the styles for the enemies, environments, etc. But you are still on Mars, and they still do open a portal to hell, so at least that part is going to be familiar. You still have the classic weapons from Doom, shotgun, plasma rifle, minigun, all that good stuff, but they are divvied out a little slower. Lots of the game is more focused on slower paced exploration rather than run fast, shooty shoot like the rest of the series. It's worth pointing out this is also the BFG edition of the game, which is a re-release that gives more health and ammo drops over the course of the game, as well as adds a mod that makes it so you don't have to switch out a weapon to use the flashlight, which was in the original game, to kind of amp up the horror. So it makes the game much less of a survival game, and also makes it a lot easier. Overall, this game's more like modern shooters than the previous games, which were more fast-paced run-and-gun type experiences. It even has the true horror of modern FPS games, reload animations. So all in all, more horror-focused, slower-paced version of Doom. So what do I like about this game? Well, I still think this game looks absolutely fantastic, especially the lighting. It was kind of a technological marvel when it came out, and it still looks really incredible. They used the engine to its fullest extent to create some really atmospheric areas in the game. The shooting also overall feels really solid. This is still an id game after all, so the shooting is going to be fun and engaging, even if there is arguably less of it. Also, the plasma gun and the chain gun in this game are standouts for fun shooting. The game also has a great feeling of escalation. The opening first chapters are incredibly effective at setting the mood for this horror game, and it makes you feel like you're going from a recruit to a badass by the end of the game as you gather more and more arsenal and get better and better at the game as the plot escalates. In terms of things I don't like, a lot of the environments really look the same in this game. There is not a ton of variance until you get to hell at the end of the game, and even that is pretty short. Because of this, it's really easy to get lost, which is a major letdown when you have to circle an area over and over again, not knowing if you've been somewhere and not knowing where to go next. Every time you get hit in this game, you also fly all over the place. I don't know why they kept this in the game for the BFG edition, because it freaking sucks. It's hard to line up a follow-up shot, and your character just kind of spazzes out. And lastly, the shotgun is a joke. Yes, I am giving a singular gun its own con point on this list. I hate this game's shotgun. The shotgun is the workhorse gun for all the Doom games. This one is incredibly inconsistent, and it just completely sucks. Why is this shotgun such garbage? So as you know, I rate games on a 3-point scale. Must play, maybe consider, don't bother. This game is a maybe consider. To me, Doom 3 is still definitely a classic for a good reason, even though it isn't held in as high of regard as its predecessors. Because of its change of pace, it's harder to openly suggest it for everybody. However, if you enjoy horror games, or more specifically shooters with horror elements like Resident Evil 4-6 or The Evil Within, this game will be right up your alley. Doom 3 still has fantastic shooting and all that classic id quality, even if it doesn't have the same insane speed and action that one might have expected from this series. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and go out there and enjoy Doom 3. Hello friends, and welcome to 3-Minute Game Pass. I'm Nathan, and today I'm going to tell you whether this Game Pass game is worth your time and bandwidth. Today's game is Doom 2016. With its original creators long gone, Doom was due for a reboot. But does this game live up to the magic of the original franchise? Let's find out. Doom 2016 is an Xbox-only release. They apparently forgot to put it out on PC because everything else is on there, but this one isn't. It is enhanced for 1X for 4K, and it runs at 60 FPS on everything, which is great. The game is also about 12 to 16 hours long. So, Doom 2016 is a fast-paced arena shooter that returns to its roots. Or, if we're being honest, it feels more like Quake's roots than Doom. You return as the Doom Slayer, with a familiar arsenal from Doom and the same blisteringly fast combat and assortment of enemies from Doom 1 and 2, most of them. The big change here is the glory kill system, weakening an enemy enough and you can do a fast melee finisher on them that always drops health. As health pickups are decreased overall, aggression is needed to survive most combat encounters, keeping you in the fight. You can also resupply your ammo by chainsawing enemies, which is another instant kill, and provides ammo for some reason. On top of the slick, fast-paced shooting, the game has a weapon mod and upgrade system, which allows you to both augment and upgrade your weapons over the course of the game. Each weapon has up to 2 mods that will do things like make the shotgun fire a grenade, or add a scope to the rifle. Maxing them out requires doing a specific challenge, but it's almost always worth it. There are other upgrades as well, including rune trials that provide passive boosts, which can also be upgraded, among other things. However, all this stuff is in service of some slick as hell first-person shooting with an arsenal that empowers you to be a god against the hordes of hell. So what do I like about this game? Well, the game is just a blast to play. The pacing, the arsenal, everything flows together beautifully, and in a way few shooters could ever manage. This game is nearly perfectly paced when it comes to its single-player campaign and its combat encounters. The upgrade system is also incredibly rewarding, and the mission challenges that you get for each mission encourage variety. And lastly, the story, art, direction, and world are absolutely S tier. From the Mars base to hell itself, this game looks incredible, and holy guacamole, the soundtrack is just out of this world. And the fact that it changes depending on how you're playing is just icing on the cake. It's really astounding. When it comes to the bad, the platforming section of this game suck. It has a one-hit death penalty if you fall off a cliff, which just makes it suck even more. It just sucks. All the platforming in this game is terrible. And despite having an amazingly goofy story, which is basically that they used hell energy to charge our iPhones and, surprise, surprise, it went amok, the moments where it requires you to watch cutscenes really drag the game down. And lastly, the game has multiplayer. Nobody's playing it. It's not bad, but it's not exciting. So as you know, I rate games here on a 3-point scale. Must play, maybe consider, don't bother. This is absolutely a must play. You should believe the hype. Doom 2016 is one of the best FPS games ever made when it comes to its single player campaign. Absurdly vicious action paired with insane movement speed, verticality, and a killer arsenal and great variety of enemies to use it on make the game difficult to put down. I like to say I have beaten this game 5 to 6 times already before playing through it again on Game Pass for footage. And while I stopped recording around mission 5, I still beat the game again because I couldn't stop playing it. Doom 2016 is a masterpiece of shooting and absolutely earns the pedigree of its title. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Go out there and enjoy the hell out of Doom 2016. Hello and welcome to 3-Minute Game Pass. I'm Nathan, and today I'm going to tell you whether this Game Pass game is worth your time and bandwidth. It is back with Doom Doom Eternal. Does the sequel to the much-loved Doom reboot rip and tear? Let's find out. Doom Eternal is a Xbox and PC cross-platforms with cross-chivos, but no cross-save. It is XS optimized for ray tracing, 4K 60, and 1080 120 on Series X. And lastly, this game is about 12 to 16 hours long for the single player. So what is Doom Eternal? Well, Doom Eternal continues the Doom series' newfound reputation as a fast-paced, blisteringly vicious action FPS. So what is new and improved? Doom Eternal adds increased mobility with the ability to dash, as well as improved traversal mechanics over its predecessor. Doom Eternal also will mix up how you gather resources, which is its biggest change. Rather than have most pickups from the world, you are expected to generate your own resources by using your new tools provided. You first have a flame belch that ignites enemies, and burning enemies drop armor. Glory-killing enemies still provides health that stagger state when they're weakened, but the biggest change is in ammo. You have substantially less ammo capacity overall, forcing you to switch your weapons often. You can't just stick to one weapon through most of the game. To compensate for this, your chainsaw now regenerates 1 bar of fuel on its own, meaning you'll need to chainsaw fodder enemies during a fight to keep topped off on the ammo for the weapons you like. Additionally, enemies now have specific weaknesses to certain weapons, such as shooting a grenade in the Cacodemon's mouth, or use a sniper to blow the arm cannons off a Mancubus. While this isn't necessary, it does add for more options in combat and continues encouraging switching up weapons. There's more than a few other changes as well, such as empowered melee, a one-hit kill sword, and a Doom 64 weapon that uses BFG ammo, but overall, the gameplay is like Doom 16 injected with heroin, with more enemies, crazier levels, and continued balls-to-the-wall shooting. So what do I like about Doom Eternal? This game plays like Doom 2016 ramped up to 11. Enemies are considerably more aggressive, and you have to get good and learn the game's mechanics quickly in order to succeed, which I liked. The resource system actually works incredibly well. Once you get in the groove of how the game flows, this game's gameplay absolutely shines because it empowers you to get what you need in the individual battles across the game. And the production value of this game is absolutely through the roof. The game looks incredible, has a great visual style, takes you to all different places around the universe, and the soundtrack is somehow even better than Doom 2016's. On Series X with HDR, this game at 4K 60 looks insane. When it comes to the bad, it does take longer than it should to fully deck you out, as well as teach you the basic gameplay loop. I and others on my Twitter were frustrated by this game at first, but once it clicked, I really enjoyed it, but it is a bit of work to get to that point. The story is really stupid. While Doom 2016's stupid story kind of matched its tone and was a bit funny, it felt like a B-movie, this one takes itself way too seriously, and I feel like it suffers because of it. And lastly, this game still has too much platforming. The platforming is better, there's no more one-hit kills off pits, but like, you still do too much of it, and I wish there was less of it overall. So, As you know, I rate games here on a 3-point scale. Must play, maybe consider don't bother. Yeah, this is a must play. It's a must play. The internet will probably fight till the end of time whether this or Doom 2016 have the better single player campaigns, but I personally am just glad we have two games that are at their core the same but play differently enough that you can pick and choose which experience suits you best. For me, Doom 2016's overall campaign's pacing is better, but when it came to the actual running and gunning, Doom Eternal blows it out of the water. This is further proven by the absolutely insanely good 2 DLC packs, which unfortunately aren't on Game Pass, where you're fully kitted so the game throws all of its challenges at you. I love those DLCs. Doom Eternal is an absolute roller coaster ride that looks and plays incredible and is easily one of the best, if not the best, first-person shooters ever made. Do not skip this one. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and go out there and enjoy the hell out of Doom Eternal.